live on WZBC Newton, whether you're tuning in live at TuneIn Radio at 11 a.m. or listening on SoundCloud or iTunes. This is First Stop. It's a chilly morning, Saturday morning here at Boston College. It's 12 degrees, but it feels like -5 this whole week. It's just been brutal. Today we got a great show for you today, jam-packed as always.
In the studio today is the #1 Boston sports analyst and our sports correspondent, Sam. How's it going, Sam?
What's up, Erik? Thanks for having me back.
Of course. Today's highlights include breaking down the Super Bowl, a new political segment, and of course, Jacob's nuclear hot takes on the NBA. Let's start with sports. Jacob, lead us off.
Super Bowl weekend finally. Who would have thought the Patriots would have been in this position? Currently, the Pats are favored by 2.5. Both teams are loaded. You know, Brady's got Julian Edelman and the Gronkowski, as well as the Rams got powerhouse quarterback Jared Goff and Todd Gurley. Sam, start with you. Who do you got?
I can never bet against the Pats. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm going with the Pats.
Pats.
I don't think that was a surprise, Jacob. When you asked that, I think we all knew the answer to that.
Fan, yeah.
I don't think even if they were unfavored by like 20 points, you'd still like bet on the Pats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably go with the Pats as well. I have really no connection to either team besides being in Boston. So, and I think the spread speaks for itself. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Pats could pull it out.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think I take experience. I think experience is going to win this game. The Pats have been there before. A lot of people may think this game is kind of handing the torch off to the Rams as the new powerhouse of the NFL. But I think the Patriots are going to stay there for a long time. So I think the Pats are going to win this game.
Do you think, though, that the Rams will be the powerhouse? I would even argue that the powerhouse could be Kansas City, even though they lost. I think their teams were very, very solid.
Yeah.
Their team was the best until obviously the Pats beat them at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So I think that's the torch being passed. I don't know if it's the Rams. I mean, they're solid, obviously.
Yeah.
I think for the AFC Chiefs, NFC Rams, and they're just going to be clashing for years to come.
Years to come. I agree with that.
But I don't know if you can bet against Belichick and Brady after losing last year the way they did. Yeah. And experience always wins in playoff games. So
they're a great combination.
Yeah.
Now I've heard that the Pats defense is a concern, and that could actually make change the game. You know, they have solid defensive units individually, but as a unit, as a team, as a defense, they're not too great. What are your thoughts on that?
They don't have the most talent in the world. Like, if you stack up the Rams defense against the Pats defense, the Rams have so many more star players, like all pros. Like, if you look at the free agent signings, they signed Talib, Peters, Aaron Donald. Like, the Patriots, they signed Stephon Gilmore 2 years ago to, like, I think a $45 million deal, but everyone else is rentals for, like, years. So their system is sort of like bend, don't break on defense.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed by the Kansas City game, shutting out the Chiefs and Mahomes in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they can play. That's the thing. They can play as a unit. It's just a matter of, like, putting it together for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
And again, bend, don't break, meaning they're going to give up points. That's just like how it's going to go. It's just a matter of, like, making 1 or 2 key plays and then keeping Brady in the offense in it.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the Kansas City game with the Pats. I mean, it was a shootout towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, with the overtime rules, which we spoke about last time, Pats had an amazing offensive drive and they won the game because of that offensive rule. And that's all it was. If say they didn't drive down the field that time, I mean, I would certainly expect the Chiefs to do the same on the way back.
The way that game was going, it
was literally a shootout. Yeah,
it was.
You had two of the best quarterbacks, I would say in the league. Yeah.
But then the Pats getting that 14-0 lead at half won them the game, and that was the defense.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that lead, the Chiefs come out firing in the second half. It's a completely different ballgame.
Right. Yeah. Now, if you were to look at the Pats in the second half of that game, I mean, their defense kind of slipped in the second half, and that worried a lot of people. I mean, it went to overtime because of the resolve of the Pats, but I mean, I think
you have a chance to come back.
I think there's a logic behind baseball and basketball having that because there's so many variables going, especially baseball. There's so many variables going into it that in order to weed out those anomalies, you have 7 games, right? With the NBA, they do it for I think more there are a lot of variables that go into basketball that need to be weeded out, but not as many as like baseball. I think football. The common thing is 1 game and done. There aren't many variables that could go wrong in football. You have 11 guys on the field. Each has to do their job. Yes. Yeah. Each of them is a variable. Yes. But at the end of the day, I don't see them having as much risk. Yeah. And if you think in a risk management perspective as like baseball does.
Yeah. My take is I love personally having like the winner go home mentality.
Yeah.
Because like in NBA games, in playoff games, and in baseball sometimes you're not like throwing away games, but there are some games where like I don't know, the other team gets a lead and you kind of give up, save up all your energy for the next game.
Right.
Like in football and especially in March Madness, like everything is out on the line. So like there's no second chances. That's why I could see why it might be a good idea to like extend the playoffs or maybe like add games to the series, but especially with the risks of injuries for all the players, like you can't put their bodies through that much.
They're exerting so much more energy.
Exactly. Yeah. So like if you like double the games they play in the playoffs, it's like another season. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's true, and that's why a lot of people were opposed to like a different type of overtime, like keep going with quarters. I mean, that's you're playing a different game. You know, what if it keeps going until even two periods of overtime? You're playing another half game.
You can't do that.
Injury. I mean,
do you guys watch? Have you seen any like college football playoff? Or not college football playoff, like college football overtimes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they'll start at like the 20, and sometimes the game will go on for like 2 more hours.
Right.
Like it'll be like 20-20 in overtime, and there was one game this year, it was like Oklahoma TCU that literally went to like 76-76, and that's just like it's fun in college, but in the NFL, I think the coin toss is the way to go.
Yeah.
No, it's like if you're complaining about not getting the coin toss, win the game in regulation.
True.
That's what overtime is for.
Now, I would say overtime does favor offense more than it does defense. Whoever
100%.
does win the thing. Because unless you have a powerful defense that can drive them back and get a safety, very unlikely. Because the general motion of the game is forward, not backwards.
Right.
So it does favor the offense. And as we saw with the Pats and Chiefs, the offense won because you go forward. They're not going to drive you back.
You also could argue, like, instead of changing the entire overtime, you could change the slight rule to say, like, well, how about if the one team scores a touchdown first, the other team gets a chance to match it? And they do that with the field goal. So, if the Pats would have kicked a field goal, the Chiefs would have had a chance to win it.
Okay.
But touchdown, the game's over.
Yeah.
So, like,
I agree
people
with
were mad that Patrick Mahomes didn't get a chance in overtime to, like, tie it up.
Yeah.
But if they were to maybe change that rule, I think I would be more okay with that.
I would be okay with that too. It's like redemption. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Balls back redemption.
Yeah. But you can't just keep going until no one in sight. It's
just that war of attrition is not good, especially on a human body.
Right.
That's just dangerous.
It's a brutal sport.
Right. All right. Score predictions, Sam.
I think with that 2.5 spread, 2.5 spread.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be very close. I would probably go. I'm going to go Pats by 3. I think it's going to be a very close game.
Okay. Pats by 3.
I'm going to go Pats 31, Rams 28.
Okay.
And I think the defense is going to make it a key play at the end of the game.
All right. Jacob?
34-28 Pats.
Interesting.
Just like when they won against the Falcons.
Yes, sir.
That epic comeback.
Pats 34, Rams 28. I'm writing this down for people at home so we can come back and see how wrong Jacob was.
Oh, jeez.
And then for me, I think I'm going to go... I don't know. I mean... Oof. This is going to be a hot take.
Jeez.
Pats 28, Rams 21. I think they'll fill the spread and go a little bit farther.
That's fair.
I really do. I think this is kind of a game that could be an anomaly. You know, and they're two well-matched teams, but I really think I feel like the Pats are just going to pull something out and just do something crazy. Well, so I'm going to go Pats, 28, Rams 21. I think 7. They'll fill the spread, pretty wholly there.
If you think about it, like with your prediction, if it's 21-all with like a minute left in the game and Brady has the ball, like that could easily happen. I don't know. I think it'll be close.
Yeah. All right. After this quick music break, we're going to talk about the NBA. Trades happening. Moves are being made. Jacob, of course, will be making extremely hot takes. Stay tuned. Welcome back to First Stop. Hope you enjoyed that music break. As I said before, I love the Vans. They're a very small band from Australia.
Yeah.
I think they haven't done much since the 2013. So that was obviously our intro song's called "Keep My Cool," and then that was "The Joker" by Shake That Hand, their album, their LP. So hope you enjoyed it. All right, so NBA.
That's right. Right now, so halfway through the season, more than halfway through the season, that is. The NBA MVP ladder standing right now. We got James Harden at the number 1 spot, followed by Giannis, Stephen Curry, Joel Embiid, Paul George. I love LeBron James, so let me just mention that he's in the top 10, even though he has an injury, showing just how valuable of a player LeBron is. Do I believe James Harden is the most valuable player in this league?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
What?
I don't either. Who do you think it is?
when I think of the NBA MVP award is always awarded not to the most valuable player, but the player that puts up the most stats is just a crowd pleaser. So that's why people love Russell Westbrook. They love the thought of a triple-double.
Yep.
5 consecutive, that is, triple-doubles he has. But no GM wants Russell Westbrook on their team because he knows he's a ball hog. He's not going to bring them to the championship. I think James Harden is pretty similar in terms of stat stuffing. When I look at his stat line, I mean, sure, he's averaging 36 points, but he's got 6 turnovers a game. It's pretty inefficient for a player. So that's why, as of now, when I think of MVP, who do I want to pick to build a team around? If I'm the GM of the Chicago Bulls, my hometown, I'm not picking James Harden. I would pick Stephen Curry to build my team around because I know he's.
Of course you would.
Absolutely.
Of course you would.
Would you? Well, that's the idea of the MVP, and that's not bandwagon. That's just a factual statement that Stephen Curry doesn't want to be the star of his own team. He's willing to take a pay cut to bring Kevin Durant, to bring Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, DeMarcus Cousins, and I would want that guy to build around my team, rather than James Harden or Russell Westbrook, who's gonna fight for a huge max contract and have my second best player be Thabos Cephalosha. It's like
oh, we love Thabo. Good career.
That was a really good pronunciation too.
The only thing is, I would say to that is Curry doesn't have to be the MVP of his team. There's so many other guys around him that can do so much that he can afford to not take plays off, but he's not the focal point of the offense. I don't think Harden should be MVP either, but I think what he's doing is incredible because the Rockets, it's literally him ISO every single possession.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he's still putting up numbers, and they're all over him.
The reason I would say he has fulfilled his kind of role of being the MVP, like he did, after he won, is because, he has a 30-point plus scoring streak of 25 games. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I would also go further. It's not just that. I would say he turned around the Rockets.
Yeah.
There was a moment 25 games ago, even 26 games ago, where he was like, we are not going to be under 500. And they were under 500. They were one of the worst teams in the West.
Yeah.
And he was like, screw it. I'm going balls to the wall. And he carried that team like LeBron carried the Cavs the last, 8 years. That's the thing is he turned around that team to be now an actual contender in the West. So that's why I would say that's kind of an amazing feat. Yes, is he a stat stuffer? Possibly, just like Westbrook is. But it's still about winning games and making your team, turn around your team if it's in a crisis, and he did that.
Yep.
And in their case, the only way they were going to win those games is if he puts up those numbers.
Yeah,
they're not winning those games if
No.
Eric Gordon and Gerald Green are shooting all the shots.
Right.
Harden, I'm not taking anything away from him.
Right.
He's had one of the most historic runs in NBA history.
Mm-hmm.
So the scoring, the 25 straight games with 30 or more points, that is unfathomable.
Right.
And then he had I think maybe last week he had a stretch of 4 straight games with 50 or more points.
Yeah.
Which is just
yeah.
It's an unbelievable. That's what an MVP. That's how you define MVP. Showing up every game, winning games, and taking a team that. The crazy thing is Chris Paul was hurt this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Rockets historically without Chris Paul in the lineup, they've been an under 500 team. And then Harden this year, when Chris Paul got hurt, he's okay, I'm going to put the team on my back. And that's what an MVP does.
Now, as far as history goes, for people listening at home, Wilt Chamberlain still holds the highest scoring streak for most consecutive 30-point games at 65, which is just nuts. From 1961 to 1962. He holds second place, Wilt Chamberlain, for 31 in 1962. And now Harden is tied for third with Wilt Chamberlain, 25 from the 1960 season. I think he can keep that going. I don't think he'll get 65.
He's not touching 65.
65's high. That is high. But I could see him touching 30.
I could see it.
I could see it.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I don't see him unseating him at second.
Wait, I don't think he has enough room to get to 65, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it's too far.
But yeah, so I think he could crack 30. Second place with maybe 34 or something like that.
Oh wow.
If you think about one game scoring 30 points, that's a massive game. He's done that for 25 straight games.
He had one game he scored 61.
Yeah, against the Knicks.
The Knicks, which we'll talk about the Knicks.
But honestly, despite the run that Harden's been on, my pick for MVP is Paul George.
Okay.
So kind of a dark horse. He's been flying under the radar with the Thunder.
Right.
If you watch him play this year, he has been unbelievable. Like every single game. And like other guys like Giannis and Harden and LeBron and Steph, they get more credit and more publicity. Mm-hmm. But Paul George has just been doing his thing for the entire year.
Interesting.
And he'll keep it up too.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Who do you think is you said Steph? Anyone else?
So when I was saying Steph, I was saying that's what the MVP should be about. It should be like the player that you want to build your team around. Without him, your team wouldn't be. But
I see.
Knowing how the MVP actually works, I think that Giannis Antetokounmpo fits that pronunciation.
I'm very impressed by that pronunciation.
Fits that perfectly.
Wait, try to do that again.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay.
Antetokounmpo. I'm looking right now. They're 37-13, first in the Eastern Conference. And what I really appreciate about Giannis is that the second that LeBron held a lot of people back in the Eastern Conference from advancing, and Giannis has taken the opportunity to take the Bucks to the top of the Eastern Conference. And as of now, he could very well take them to the Eastern Conference Finals with Toronto.
Oh, I agree with that.
So that's what I appreciate about Giannis is that he's, putting the team on his back. And may I say he's doing it at a more efficient rate than Harden is. So that's why I have Giannis above Harden.
No, I could see that.
Okay.
The thing that worries me about Harden is they're sort of running him into the ground like every single game. So how will he sustain himself come playoff time?
Yeah.
Because
this is like playoff mode. It almost looks like playoff mode.
It does right now, but in the past like 3 or 4 years, Harden's had the tendency to not perform in the playoffs.
Okay.
So maybe this Harden's usage rate is way too high right now, I think.
Okay.
He's just getting
he's gonna be burned out, you think?
I think so.
Finals. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's why the Lakers not rushing LeBron back is a good call, just because the playoffs is what matters.
Right. True.
As long as they get in.
Who you got, Eric?
I don't know. LeBron has had an okay season. Okay, yeah, he got injured, so that's kind of it's gonna be tough for him to get out of that 16-point deficit.
Yeah.
But I think he still needs to get MVP sometime. I mean,
LeBron,
I think it's coming sometime. I don't think it'll be this year. Probably next year, maybe the year after.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, obviously. All things considered, he's fine.
Yeah.
And he has a team that they can build around, which we should talk about. You say to the Lakers. Who did you say was going to go to the Lakers? Did you think? You said someone was going to go to the Lakers.
Lakers. Well, I think the Lakers, what they need to do is get a star to be with LeBron, because right now with LeBron out, you can see the Lakers are just not playing well at all. And that's going to be frustrating LeBron a lot. He's going to turn into a GM like he always does, like what you say.
Always.
He's going to try to pull a big name, Kawhi Leonard possibly. But in all honesty, I see Kawhi probably going to the Clippers. The Clippers are playing pretty well without a star in their team. I mean, Tobias Harris is stepping up, but they don't really have a star brand name player on their team. So I do see possibly Anthony Davis going to the Lakers, but maybe the Knicks. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think 80 to the Lakers.
I agree. I agree with that.
I think it's over. I think it's been done since like a month ago.
Right. His dad said something the other day about like loyalty. What was he referring to?
He was like bashing the Celtics.
Okay.
So
because what they did to Kyrie.
To IT.
To Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, right. So in that trade though.
Yeah.
But so he bashed them over like some like interview, and he was saying how he didn't want his son to go to Boston. Like Boston's out of the question because of like their loyalty issues with IT. Like so basically after IT got hurt, they traded him in the Kyrie trade. Right. And so his dad was saying that he doesn't want the same thing to happen to his son.
Right. Just to get discarded.
Pulling a loyalty card in that case it's a little ironic because his son is basically the one that demanded a trade, and he's quitting on his own team.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's funny.
Yeah, that's actually really true.
No one really thinks of that, but
no. What are your thoughts on the Knicks trade with Dallas? Pretty controversial.
I know you like it for the Mavericks, right?
I love it for the Mavericks because the Mavericks won that trade. I'm furious with this Knicks organization led by Phil Jackson. There should be riots on the street of New York City.
Phil Jackson.
There should be an uprising.
He should never be allowed back in New York ever again.
Absolutely. Let me tell you. So Dallas Mavericks acquired Kristaps Porzingis, the 7'3" shooting guard, out of, where is he from? I don't even know where he's from.
Like Croatia.
Latvia. Okay. And then the Knicks in exchange got Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, and a very old DeAndre Jordan.
Who makes these trades? Like what?
I like it for both teams.
There are two sides.
Yes.
The Knicks, their argument is, let's clear my cap space and let me go into this upcoming season, or summer that is, and get 2 max contracts for 2 big stars, Kawhi, Kyrie Irving, something like that. What the Knicks should have done was keep Kristaps Porzingis, who's still on a relatively cheap contract, and build around him, make the cap space to make that happen. This is ridiculous. Finally, the Knicks, they get Dennis Smith Jr., who they should have taken in the draft instead of this bum, Frankie Nicotine, who's averaging from Belgium, averaging 6 points a game. There's always a steal in every draft, right? So I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. Getting Jimmy Butler, 30th pick, I think we won that draft because we got him at such a great pick. The Knicks finally got a great player in Kristaps Porzingis, really young too, and you trade him away on a, he's still on his is he still on his rookie contract? Yeah, he's still on his rookie contract. He's 23 years old. I mean, it's just
he's a 7'2" center that can shoot threes and handle the ball.
Absolutely.
Like he's a generational talent.
Absolutely.
The crazy thing is it does blow my mind, but I do see the Knicks' perspective too.
Yeah.
Clearing that cap space, like they got rid of Tim Hardaway's contract and Courtney Lee. Those are all bad contracts. They got rid of those.
Yeah.
And it clears up the possibility of them signing KD and Kyrie in free agency, which is very much in play.
Yeah. But if the Knicks do not show this summertime, and because they've done in the past, they've been LeBron. He's been a free agent. They couldn't pull LeBron. They couldn't pull these past big agents. And if the Knicks sign Jimmy Butler, and they think that Jimmy Butler is going to be the savior that they deserve. I mean, I'm sorry, but Jimmy Butler's not going to do anything for you guys.
No.
And also the Mavericks, let me say Luka Doncic. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Doncic.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Porzingis, it's like Dirk having another Dirk during his prime time. It's unreal.
Dirk to Dirk.
That duo is going to be electric to watch in the next decade.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. That'll be kind of
23 years old and 19 years old are going to be the 2 powerhouses for the Mavs.
That's their future right there.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is they drafted Trae Young and then traded him for Doncic. So they've been working on this it's like a master plot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the fact that Kristaps will be able to learn from Dirk in his last season too.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's going to be awesome.
I mean, the Celtics right now, so last night we were watching part of the game. They won, what was the score, Eric? It was
113-99.
113-99. What's going on with the Celtics, Sam? What do you think? Is Kyrie gone?
They're 5 in the East.
Yeah.
But I argue they should be 3rd. I
agree
really
with you,
do.
Eric.
I mean, they have individual units. What is going on?
It's just inconsistency.
Yeah.
Like right now they're on one of those hot streaks. They've won like 7 of their last 8, I think.
Okay.
They play OKC tomorrow, which will be a big game at home. But the thing is, they'll beat Toronto at home, and then they'll go. What they did 2 weeks ago is they lost to Miami away, they lost to Orlando, and they lost to Brooklyn. So they'll pull these streaks where they look like the best team in the league, and then there's going to be other nights 3 days later where they're not even deserving of a playoff seed. Yeah. So it's unbelievable. It's just they haven't been showing up on a nightly basis. I think the chemistry is getting better. I haven't seen enough from Hayward yet. That's the thing.
Yeah. Do you think he's gone?
No, I don't. I don't think the Celtics are gonna just give up on him yet, because it's 1 year in. He had a catastrophic injury.
Yeah, right.
What worries me is Kyrie's uncertainty regarding his future of the team.
Yeah.
Because if he's having doubts about it now, it's gonna factor into his relationship with his teammates, his performance, and I don't know if his focus isn't fully on this season and winning a championship.
Yeah.
It's why are you even bringing that up to the media if you don't want a distraction?
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of like he's asking for it upon himself. So.
Yeah.
Did
you hear last night at the Knicks stadium, they were like, we want Kyrie.
Yeah, I would want Kyrie too.
Yeah.
If I were them.
Right.
Yeah.
But
he's an amazing player.
He's unbelievable. But I think it's got to be all in right now. It can't be no outside distractions. Everyone's got to buy in. What's really been impressive to me over the run is Jaylen Brown coming off the bench.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
He's the one guy, and Marcus Smart, he's the one guy that I've been every night is going to show up, no matter what.
That's good. That's what you guys need.
Exactly.
You need consistency.
You need consistency. That's the one thing.
Do you think Smart's gone? I heard some people saying Smart might be gone. They might trade him.
He's the last guy.
That will leave?
The last guy. Yeah.
Because you need a spark plug on defense.
You need a spark plug. He's the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah.
He really is, if you think about it.
True.
He's been a Celtic for the longest period of time. He's the longest tenured Celtic. He's maybe the best perimeter defender in the NBA. He's the heart and soul, and he's been shooting like 40% from 3 this year.
Yeah.
So he's been. I think Brad putting him into the starting role has been awesome for the team.
Yeah.
And he just brings so much grit and tenacity and everything you could ask for.
Right.
If the Celtics do move Kyrie or Hayward or whoever it might be.
Yeah. A couple big upsets. I could see maybe an ACC tourney run. It's possible.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So after this quick music break, we're going to be starting our new political section with our head political correspondent, Erik. Stay tuned.
The following news headlines do not suggest a bias on behalf of WZBC or WVBC under any circumstances. The following is for educational purposes only. If any opinion is expressed in the following, they are not reflective of WZBC or WVBC respectively. Now for this week's headlines. So in this new news segment, what I'm going to do is I usually did headlines and then just left it at that. Yep. I'm going to dive in and kind of break down kind of both sides of the hot headlines and see, what are the pros and cons of it for either side. So starting off in the domestic sphere, U.S. hiring in January smashed expectations with 304,000 payroll applications filled. This was beyond the projected 180,000 due to the government shutdown. Wage gains cooled, and the government shutdown pushed unemployment upwards. May I add, though, that statistic of unemployment going up is misleading because when an economy is healthy, people will actively seek employment. And so when you actively seek employment, you notch up the unemployment list. And so in a good economy, unemployment usually tends to rise. Or in a booming economy, unemployment tends to rise because people are like, oh, I'm going to go now look for a job because wages are rising, stuff like that. This statistic, I think, is really telling that the government shutdown, while it put people, 800,000 needed employees, without pay, which they have gotten paid ever since. It really did not do much to the economy. It was just really more of a political thing, as government shutdowns are. Obama did it with Obamacare in 2013. Clinton used to have the longest one in 1994 for welfare reform. Now it's this one, it was 36 days, I think. So that being said, this payroll thing is really great news for any economist who's looking at jobs numbers. The fact that during even a government shutdown we're smashing expectations shows kind of for people on the supply side of economics that cutting corporate taxes will lead to lower prices, more job opportunities, reinvestment in companies, as well as if you're on the supply side, saying, okay, cutting taxes also does that. So now people on the demand side would say, well, okay, the cutting of taxes and stuff like that is great in a kind of a recession economy. We didn't have that over the summer, and they would argue that this is just because of the hot job market. People jumping into the job market who were workers, seeing that wages were rising because it was a competitive wage market. That is what kind of drove it. It wasn't really the businesses doing it. It was more of people saying, I'm going to leave my job that I don't like, because there's a statistic that showed that job satisfaction in the U.S. is kind of anemic. Not a lot of people like their job. They think it's just a job. They're not really engaged in it. The highest time that was like in the 80s, I believe, that had one of the highest job satisfaction. So with a low job satisfaction or anemic job satisfaction rate coupled with a hot job market, you're going to see people leave. You're going to see people become unemployed but actively seeking work. So that's why I think that statistic is great. Obviously, more jobs the better, and I think that's actually really great. Another thing, Cory Booker announced his bid for a Democratic nomination for the 2020 presidential race. This comes weeks after Kamala Harris announced her bid. What's interesting is we're already, obviously, American politics. The political machine in America never stops. We always keep going. And we're committing to runs now in 2018, or obviously 2019 now. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, they're interesting candidates for the Dems because they are kind of that, I would say, the far left of the Democratic Party, especially Kamala Harris. They are minorities. Kamala Harris is a female. They want to galvanize that wing of the party, which has shifted after Trump. The Democrats now kind of embody the educated, suburban, or, I say educated, but people with college degrees, suburban women, minorities, and black men. That's their base. Trump has got everyone else. Non-college educated white working class males and white working class females. So with that in play, I could see them going with one of them. The CNN puts Kamala Harris at number one power projection overall, who would be the Democratic nominee, that is including Joe Biden jumping in the race and Sherrod Brown. Now, many have said that there's been candidates in the past that have run it. When especially Reagan Mondale, I forget the guy's name, but he jumped in and everyone's like, oh, he's going to win. He's going to win the nomination. He barely took one delegate. So it is obviously too early to see if a Sherrod Brown or a Joe Biden does jump in. And I'll break down right now basically what that would mean for the Trump political campaign. If Sherrod Brown jumps in as a populist economics person with more of a socially center-left view, not centrist, but certainly more progressive, he will push Trump to be more of a Republican in the classical sense of, looking like a George W. Bush. We're going to invest in our military. We're going to cut taxes in a supply side manner. We are going to, support jobs creation. He will lose the emphasis on being pro-worker because of Sherrod Brown holding that kind of reign of being pro-worker. Sherrod Brown obviously is from Ohio, huge in the steel industry, manufacturing sector, and the whatnot. Now, if it's Joe Biden, I would say, it's funny saying this, 5-6 years ago, saying Joe Biden's the moderate of the Democratic Party shows how much it's shifted. But Joe Biden would kind of categorize, I would say, as the moderate of the Democratic Party. If he does that, if he does jump in, Trump will go back to 2016 campaign Trump, more saying, I stand for the worker, more alt-right sentiment because he needs to get that base, galvanized to the polls again. And so by putting up a moderate, if the Dems put up a moderate, they will make Trump back to where he was in 2016, which was very attractive to a lot of people. If they put up a progressive, they risk alienating the middle of the Democratic Party, and it would also shift Trump to be more of a classical Republican. And I say classical Republican as if it's like some political term. It's not, but I'll just say it is. It's like a George H.W. Bush, possibly. Not focusing on workers, not focusing on manufacturing as much, but as more on job creation. Kind of more that Reagan-esque look. So if they nominate a moderate, they can win over the people who could bail and go to Howard Schultz, who is the CEO of Starbucks. He's running as a moderate, centrist, pro-business guy. And that he could do well among libertarians, liberal Republicans, and moderate Democrats because they're pro-business, they are centrists, and they kind of want this all to go away. The un-establishment, the anti-establishment stuff. If they nominate progressive, then they don't get the protest votes that they had in 2016, where they went to, Jill Stein or, Gary Johnson. They didn't go to Hillary. The far left, they need the far left. They need their anger to come out to the polls. But then again, that anger and the policy that the far left is espousing of no borders, no walls, no ICE, abolish ICE, healthcare for all isn't too popular among moderates, and that's who they need to worry about. They need to worry about that 20% of people in America who could sway either way. And so it'll be a tough road to walk with the Democrats. Currently, I don't see them winning, and I'm not speaking from a biased lens. I don't see them winning in the candidate field they have now, unless they nominate someone big like a Joe Biden, who has name recognition, who kind of seems as a moderate, or as I've often suspected, would a John Kasich, Joe Biden run together? Would a Rob Portman, Joe Biden, would they kind of bridge the two parties? Now, John Kasich, Rob Portman, they would go against their party mandate and kind of rebel, but John Kasich doesn't care. John Kasich's actually become the most pro-choice Republican in state houses. He's voted down many anti-abortion bills that he ran on in before, so he's kind of showed his colors as far as that's concerned. So I could see that happening. If that happens, I don't see Trump doing too well in 2020. Next, President Trump is considering Herman Cain, former pizza chain CEO and 2012 GOP nominee, for a position on the Federal Reserve. If anyone remembers, Herman Cain is most famous for his proposed 999 tax plan, which is 9%. It's a flat tax income rate, 9% sales tax, and I believe 9% corporate tax. Very business conservative person. He wants him to be on the Federal Reserve to kind of combat the aggressive Federal Reserve as Trump has seen. Breaking last night, the U.S. plans to withdraw from the INF, a Cold War-era arms control treaty with Russia. This has risen alarms amongst the international community about what the end goal of withdrawing from the treaty is. And we saw late last night that Putin announced that Russia is suspending their missile treaty with the U.S., formed in the Cold War, to retaliate against the U.S. Now, this raises alarms among the international community that this is kind of the Cold War Part 2, Cold War Part 3, depending on how you count Cold Wars. And a lot of people are worried that, this will create another arms race and kind of lead to the path of fiscal collapse among either U.S. or Russia. Those are alarmist extremist views. I don't think it's going to be that serious. But it does raise the question of why now and what is the end goal. And I would agree with that. So this is a developing story, and we'll see where that goes. It's kind of odd that would happen, and the fact that what is the goal? If speaking from a Republican's view, if Trump did collude with Russia, why would he do something so detrimental to Russia? From a left-wing view, they would say this is just a false flag. He's doing it just to say he wasn't part of it, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, in the foreign news, now I am actually, for viewers at home, I love foreign politics. I think partly because I'm not as emotionally invested in that as I am in American politics, so I can analyze from more of an objective lens. So that being said, I actually have a few polls from France, Germany, Sweden about the current status of their political establishment and the parties thereof. We know that since 2015, there has been a rise of alt-right, right-wing populist parties in Europe. Whether it's Germany, Spain, France, Sweden, Italy, they've all been on the rise. Now, I'm going to break down 5 countries, France, Germany, Sweden, and Italy. I can't count 4 countries in regards to each popularity of their things. And we're going to see what is motivating this, what's behind it, and actually who is behind all this rise. And is the nationalist wave a wave or a sea change? I think that's kind of the focus question we have to ask. So, starting with Sweden, the far-right party, the Swedish Democrats, have taken second place in this January 8th poll. Now, it's January 8th, so it's a little bit old, but they now have 19.5 support among constituents. That's opposed to the 30% polling with the Social Dems, who is currently in power. This is big news for the Swedish Democrats because they were third most popular party. They now have overstepped and outseated the Liberal Conservatives in this one poll. Jimmy Åkesson, who is their head guy, noted that his main concern is leaving the EU. Now, I think either last night or 2 nights ago, they backed off. The Swedish Democrats backed off of their calls for a Swexit, which is a Swedish exit of the EU. The names are going to sound ridiculous when this actually starts to Swexit. But he says that they backed off the calls due to the chaos of Brexit and the EU's relentless attacks to prevent a British exit. Axon noted, quote, "Relentless attack any member state that goes against Brussels. We cannot afford to leave the EU at this time because the economic and political risks it imposes on us. This is sad," unquote. So he sees that Brussels is relentless in its attacks against England to leave. We're seeing May's, I wouldn't say she is ineffective in getting her deal passed. Her party almost rebelled against her. She survived the confidence vote, which gave her a lot of political capital. But then again, now Brexit, I think I have it on my calendar when Brexit's officially going to happen. I think it's like April 8th, April 9th, and that's the official Brexit. If there's no deal, they're leaving the EU without any trade deals or anything, and that sends markets into a financial tizzy. So they need something to ease markets and to also ease the job market so, inflation doesn't go, wild. So he's seeing that Brussels, if Brexit does go through, Brussels will impose a steep duty on member states who choose to leave. And I remember they've toyed with that before. 1% of your GDP you'll have to pay us to leave. Well, that wasn't in the original Treaty of Lisbon contract in 2007, but that is kind of where they're at. So that's Sweden, and that's kind of the EU. Now, switching over to Italy, Italy's kind of interesting because I think Italy is the best way to look at where and how the right will do well in Europe. Is Sweden a wave? Possibly. Is Germany a wave? Possibly. Italy, though, they've actually not only won election and established a government, they've actually done better. They've actually increased their polling. Salvini, the deputy prime minister, member of the Lega Nord, and I think the head of the Lega Nord, which is a far-right party, spoke a few days ago about the migrant ship off the coast of Italy. There's a 300-person migrant ship from North Africa. He said, "We will take them to land on shore," seizing to pressures from the EU. But he said, then they are getting back on that boat and leaving. Because the EU tells them, based on asylum law, you must take them in. And he says, fine, we'll take them in, but we're not supposed to keep them. And so that's kind of their goal with the migrant ship. Lega Nord, the right-wing party, and the Five Star Movement, an anti-establishment party, kind of more moderate but sick of the status quo, have maintained their popularity and actually increased it. Polling indicates that the anti-establishment Five Star Movement is at 29% and the right-wing movement's at 31%. Now that is an increase from a year ago at 32.7 and 17.4. So Lega Nord has actually increased their lead while the anti-establishment has kind of kept true. So that shows that the Italian people are content with the right wing, and they're content with what they're doing for economic stimulus, economic reform, something they need because they've had a horrible, anemic financial. The capital's practically frozen in Italy. They have not been able to recover since the recession. And so they're saying, okay, well, we need to do something. What's interesting is he also said many times, Salvini did, that he said to Trump that Italy under the current government will be the greatest ally of the U.S. Now that obviously, because Trump is, I would say, a right-wing populist, that is just kind of the connection between the two politically. But I also think because Italy wants a free trade deal with the U.S. because they need economic reform and deregulation. They need stimulus of some sort. They need American goods to come over free. And we also need it too. Obviously, we want to sell Fords, GMs, and products like that, GE products over there. Obviously, that'd be great for us. So maybe there's a potential trade deal in the future. So I definitely look out for that. Will there be a trade deal between Italy and the U.S.? I don't know if they can. I don't know EU that well, but I don't know if they can do that independently. It's possible. Next, we have France. Marine Le Pen, who lost 60 to 30. No, I can't do math. 60 to 40 in the election in 2016. Marine Le Pen's National Front, which is a far-right populist party, has actually taken the lead in polls against Macron's En Marche, which is a liberal centrist party. After a contentious and chaotic few months, Macron has barely survived the Gilets jaunes, which is the Yellow Jacket protest, which protested his gas tax. And everyone, there was a political meme, if you're into the political sphere, there's a political meme on the internet that showed that every single element of the political compass, you had the communists, you had the right-wingers, you had the anarchists, and you had the radical libertarians all coming out to march against Macron. And someone said, when you alienate everyone who wants to, who hates each other, you're on the wrong side. Jeez. And so he definitely barely got through that. The Le Pen's National Front is at 22%, and En Marche is at 20%. This is liberal. The En Marche has just hemorrhaged support. They were at 32.3% last year. Now they're at 20%. ISIS has been eradicated by 97%, and the level of terrorist threats in France have gone down. So Le Pen can't really capitalize on that anti-Islamic sentiment as she once did, but she can capitalize on the sentiment of discontent with Macron, and I think that's her best plan. And I think a lot of parties have the left wing at least has, the Communist Party has said this guy is just another pro-business person when we're not pro-business. So it'll be interesting where she goes with it. If she'll make another run, I could actually see it. I mean, she is quite popular among the rural parts, not around Paris, but among the rural parts and among the west coast of France. And then finally, Germany, who I hold, I love German politics for whatever reason. I just always have. The AfD, which is the Alternative for Deutschland, the far-right populists, have taken massive gains, and I have to emphasize that, in polling, where they're now tied with the CDU, which is Merkel's party. Now, if someone were to tell me that 2-3 years ago, I'd say, oh, that's unheard of. CDU, CSU are the stalwart conservative party in Germany. They have been there forever. She's had 4 terms, tried and true. Now they're tied with her, 21% to 21%. SPD took a lead of 23%. That's because of just discontent with the CDU. But that being said, the AfD, who only ran just to disrupt Merkel's coalition goals, no policy goals whatsoever, besides banning Islamic immigrants, only goal was to disrupt her thing, now is taken tied for second place. Now that's huge for them. And what's interesting is a lot of people worried that the Greens, the German Green Party, would gain a lot of membership from Merkel's CDU party. Actually not. She's just lost a lot of momentum and a lot of people wanting to come out for her. So that'll be interesting to look at when state elections come around, I think next year, or maybe the end of this year. I forget. Yeah, end of this year. When the AfD in the east part of Germany, when they take a lot, that will actually be huge for them. Now, what is leading all this? What is causing all this? Usually these anti-establishment waves are, they're gone in a week, or basically, politically speaking, a week. Well, the answer is actually Steve Bannon. He was political advisor for Trump during the 2015-2016 campaign, and he, after his failed defeat with Roy Moore being his campaign manager, he says, I need to raise my political capital again. How do I do that? He's going over to Europe. He's advising Marine Le Pen. He's advising Gauland in the AfD. He's advising Jimmy Akeson, and he's saying, I will be your tool to win elections, et cetera, et cetera. So he works with Le Pen, Salvini, Akeson, and has allowed them to evolve their message to create permanence in European politics. politics. Instead of cornering themselves into, a purist kind of thing, like, oh, only this subset of the population can be on the right, he said, no, you expand the base, you grow the base. And how do you do that? And you can look to each country to see that. So he has been a dominant force behind the scenes. He's kind of broken ties to the U.S. because, he backed Roy Moore. Roy Moore lost horribly in an election. That nothing loses you political capital faster than a lost election, especially with a horrible candidate like Roy Moore. So that is kind of the driving force of that, Steve Bannon. So you probably will see his name probably more and more as elections heat up again in Europe, and especially if Brexit goes through. He's advising a lot of people on the Brexit campaign to say, no, you got to leave Brexit. If you want this, it's what the people wanted, etc. So that is in the international sphere. And finally, Punxsutawney Phil did not see a shadow. Therefore, spring is just around the corner. It doesn't feel like it.
It's good to hear, though.
It's just around the corner. So let's hope we get 60 degrees, not 60 below. It was quite rough.
Shout out Minnesota.
Shout out Minnesota. We'll be right back after this quick music break. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to First Stop. We have Sam in the studio today. Anything new, Sam?
You know what? Just living life.
New semester, yeah.
Getting back into the swing of things feels good. Studying hard as always.
Awesome, yeah. Did you do anything cool over break?
So we actually went out to Colorado, went skiing for like 6 days or so with the family.
Awesome.
So it was really fun. Great snow out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. Do you ski or snowboard?
I'm a skier.
Okay.
So I've never tried snowboarding, but I've always been a big skier.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Cool. Did you go with the whole family?
So we went with my dad and his entire family. We rented a big house out there.
That's awesome.
And then we were there for New Year's Eve and New Year's, and then I went home for like a week and a half.
That's sweet.
So it was a great break.
I can imagine. How long were you guys there? Like a week? Or?
We were there for 6 days, I think.
Okay.
And then I celebrated Christmas here actually with my dad's family.
That's cool.
And then went home to see my mom and sister and everything.
There you go.
So it was good.
That's
great
awesome.
Break, yeah.
That's sweet.
Good to be back here though.
Oh, I know. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it's good to be back in the swing of things.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
rough to get back in the swing of things.
The first week was tough.
I was like,
long.
wait, what do you mean I have to study?
But it was a 4-day week too.
Yeah,
so
true.
like it just felt like I don't know.
Yeah. I forgot what studying was over break,
Yeah.
and I was like, what do you mean I have to go study?
I have to do homework.
I have to do homework? What is this?
Yeah.
So, well, I was glad to have you in the studio today.
Yeah.
Glad you could join us.
Thanks so much for having me.
There you go.
We thank you, as always, for joining First Stop. Catch us next week at 11 a.m. on WVBC, on TuneIn if you want to listen live, or obviously SoundCloud, iTunes. Follow us on SoundCloud at First Stop WZBC for all the latest updates, recordings of old shows. We also have an email. We'd love to talk to people. We're really lonely, and we want email. We want fan mail. You can also DM us on Instagram. Please slide in our DMs.
Yeah.
We get a really weird DMs, but we'd like some like normal listener DMs. So please email us at firststopofficial@gmail.com. Tell us if you like us. If you hate us, please tell us why. We'll probably know why. Also, we have merch. We don't make any money off the merch. We just want to rep the brand.
That's right.
So check out our website, firststopofficial.com.
Yep, we got some new blogs coming up. We've added a couple writers to our squad here, so we're going to diversify some of our blogs. Yep. So that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, we thank you. Oh yeah.
I love the outro. So clean.
Gotta get the chemistry back.
All right. We will see you at the next stop.